Using Storm is relatively easy. This is a research tool from Stanford University. So, as it's an academic product, it lacks some of the frills of commercial research tools, but it does introduce some interesting concepts. So, from the start page, you just have to enter a topic and fire it off. The system uses currently Bing search engine, although I think they're going to add others. And once you start the process, it'll ask you to put in a purpose, which can be anything. I think this is more about helping them understand how the system is used. But there we go. Storm works by going through several phases. The first one is the pre-writing phase, which we're seeing here, where it trawls the internet to find relevant resources to get the information from, and then puts that into its language model, which then processes this into an article. It's quite an interesting process they use, where they have, instead of just giving you questions to ask it, it generates its own questions, and these will be taken from different perspectives. So in this case, you might have a pharmacologist or an oncologist, and what you get at the end is this table of contents of how it's structured the article. The article itself is quite extensive, and from what I've seen and looked at, it's quite accurate. I haven't found any particular problems with it. You can ask it to show you the brainstorming process, and here at the top are the various personas: cancer researcher, oncologist, fact writer, and pharmacologist, and you can choose where it asked these different questions to different people. The questions are generated, so here, what are the most recent targeted therapies, and then it gets a response. So it adopts these personas to get a different perspective on the report. Finally, you can create a PDF of the document to download, so you can then add that into your research situation. CoStorm takes a slightly different approach to the problem of creating research papers, and it adopts this roundtable conversation approach. You can select CoStorm from the top as a new mode, add your question in, and then your writing purpose, and let it go off and do its thing. Now, once it's completed its research online, we have here the mind map, similar to Storm, except you can now step your way through the conversations between the personas and the system. So each one generates a new conversation, and you have this situation where the system's actually asking questions. Could these technologies tackle therapy resistance? With references here. Click on generate, and the knowledge provider will now respond to that particular question, do some background research, and then come back with a response. As it does that, it adds information into the mind map. General knowledge providers here giving information about the resistance, it still has this quite annoying sort of things like absolutely and what have you. The next query would come from this oncologist, who will throw in a different question. Again, don't really need, that's fascinating, but there we go. And the knowledge provider will give a response to that question. So you're watching a to and fro from these expert personas, and it seems to cycle through them. So we've got an oncologist here. That's a great question, and so on and so forth. Now, at any time, you can join in and throw in a question of your own. So let's throw something in like, how does this work in prostate cancer? And rather than going on to their own next step, it'll take on board your query and come up with an answer. So you can basically carry on with this sort of almost ad infinitum. I haven't seen a point where it just stops doing anything yet. And as with Storm, there we go. It's a new information about trastuzumab and prostate cancer. So it then brings in a specialist in prostate cancer. Now at the top you can see on the right hand side here essentially the article that it generated in the background, similar to Storm. But you can also follow the background discussions that it's having, if you like, out of view from ourselves with all the references. And that can give you quite an interesting take on, is it asking the right questions and are the responses acceptable? So that's CoStorm, and I think it's well placed as a sort of starter point. It's fairly comprehensive, seems to be accurate, although they do warn it can throw up red herrings. But all in all, I think it's worth looking at and persevering with.